The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
C.D. Lamb, touchdown.
Parsons has sacked it. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Patrik Walker, Josh Rodriguez, and Kyle Youmans.
It's a wonderful Wednesday edition of Talkin Cowboys presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company live from the Star in Frisco, Texas in the SWBC studio. Today we preview the Dallas Cowboys defense taking on the Atlanta Falcons as we officially turn the page to week 9 of the NFL season. Alongside Patrik Walker, Josh Rodriguez, Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Youmans. Glad you're with us. Gentlemen, how we doing today?
We're doing.
We're
up. It's Wednesday. Let's see who practices for the Cowboys today, and let's see who doesn't. This is the first day we start to figure out on a weekly basis. This is the latest week we start to figure out if guys like DaRon Bland have a chance, if Micah Parsons has a chance, and we'll kind of go from there.
Do you think anybody has a chance out of those two specifically?
Patrik Walker, Micah Parsons better be in this game. So I'm coming for you.
Hey, listen.
I'm coming for you.
I do what I can. I've saged. I've hit them with the Miyagi. You know what I mean?
You have done all this?
Like, I've done all of this.
At least you're doing your part.
I'm doing my part. But no, seriously, man. I'm right there with you. Micah Parsons absolutely needs to be on the field for this game. If he can go, then, we'll see how it goes. But, I mean, DaRon Bland is a little bit of a different story in that, whereas Micah Parsons is not on injured reserve, so there's not that decision to be made. The decision has to be made today on if DaRon Bland is going to be put on the active roster. And if he's not put on the active roster, then he reverts to season-ending IR. So kind of a massive day in that regard.
You would anticipate he would just be
anticipate he's going to be added
active
to the 53-man roster.
And then from there, he can be inactive.
Right.
But he has to go on because the 21-day window started 3 Wednesdays ago.
Literally 21 days ago. So
wow.
Now, and that Cowboys can continue to slow play it, like you said, if they want to with DaRon Bland. And, but what you don't want to do is have him become ready at some point in the season, and now he's on season-ending IR. So the smart thing to do would be the obvious thing, and you put him on the active 53-man roster. We'll see what the corresponding roster move would be in that situation.
Have they moved John Stevens to IR? They did this past weekend, right?
Oruwariye.
Signed Oruwariye.
And then that was the corresponding move. So we'll see. Presumably, DaRon Bland goes to the 53. Who comes off of the 53 as a corresponding. But that doesn't mean that DaRon is going to play against the Falcons. What would indicate that is if he returns to practice, like actually returns to practice, because he was DNP all last week. So
at this point, we got to see the Friday practice report.
Right, because
Thursday,
3 weeks ago before the bye, he was full, and then DNP, and he's been DNP.
I think there was a setback because everything was pointing in the direction that he was going to play. He's going to play. People were talking in the building.
Every indication was that he was going to take some snaps.
And sure enough, it not only did he not play, but he goes DNP on Friday.
Yeah.
Goes into the bye week. Everybody's like, he'll be good after the bye week. DNP'd all last week, and it's just I think something. They said it was soreness. Stephen Jones reported it as soreness as the setback. I think it may have been something a little bit more significant.
In hindsight, it feels as if that was downplayed.
I think so too. So
transactionally, I expect that to be a thing for DaRon today.
I'm going to ask a question on that too, though. But if they were to put him on the active roster, and in order to do so, you would eliminate that 21-day practice window. He does not have to revert back to season-ending IR.
Correct.
How quickly, if, let's say, worst-case scenario happens and it was a significant setback, how quickly could they turn around and put him back on IR for 4 weeks?
If you put him back on IR, he's done.
You can't do it twice.
You cannot do it twice.
Okay,
that's to keep teams from doing that.
Yeah. From going back and forth.
Keeps teams from hustling the system.
That means if he is on the active roster, then at least he will be back at some point this season.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So
that's wild.
Yeah. So transactionally, I expect he'll be back on the 53-man roster today.
It's not like fantasy where you can put him on IR every time.
This is not Yahoo. This is not. So we'll see. I mean, today's the first practice day. They'll be on the practice field at 12:50 today. Mike McCarthy will talk at 12 noon today. We'll see if he gives any insight into, green light the transaction, or if he slow plays it. But I still expect it to be done, even if he doesn't, show the hand. See if Mike talks about Micah and the status of Micah, and if there's anyone else that he's looking to help contribute in a big way that just has not been able to, however that might be, practice squad or otherwise.
Magic wand, you could heal any player on the roster. Who would it be at this point?
I'm going to say DeMarcus.
I thought about that too.
The reason I said DeMarcus is because Micah should be like right there. DeMarcus is still on IR, so if I could wave the magic wand and like delete him from IR and put him back, anybody back on the field, delete. It will be DeMarcus Lawrence. You need to improve this run defense.
My first thought was DeMarcus Lawrence run defense. That was it. I need some help because we've got a guy called Bijan Robinson coming up this week. That's he's pretty decent.
Who is that?
Yeah, he's a pretty good running back.
Pretty good.
Say fewer things like that.
I'm sorry.
I don't like
Stop
what you're saying.
talking.
I don't like what you're saying. Say other things.
That's pure and simple. That was my first thought. Is give me the magic wand. Come on back, D-Law. Come on back, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm still with Mike on this one. I just feel like as an offense, you have to account for what he's doing.
I'm not going to say assuming, but I'm optimistic that Micah is back this week. So because I'm optimistic about that, I'm going D-Law. I'm not going to waste.
What you say, man? He's over your shoulder
I'm
right now.
I'm not going to waste my magic wand on a guy that I presume will be back this week anyway. Why waste your wish? Right?
This is a situational hypothetical, is what is happening.
Right. Yeah.
We're making your hypothetical situational.
Yes.
Any other news and notes before we move on to the
no, not at the
preview?
moment, because they're coming off of a Tuesday with no activity, no transactions or anything like that. No one spoke on the radio, so we're rolling right. I know, right? Chuckle. Yeah. We're rolling right into Wednesday.
Let's start this defensive preview by looking inward at this Cowboys defense. Of course, across the board, it hasn't been pretty. There hasn't been one specific unit that has stuck out more than the other. Which unit right now needs the most help going into this week against Atlanta? Defensive line, second level with the linebackers, or the secondary with the corners and the safeties? Which one are you going with?
I'm kicking off with the secondary.
Okay. I
feel like the weapons that the Falcons have wide receiver wise, I think that test will obviously the defensive line needs to be good. Because they could just run the ball. They could stick with it. But I think at least with Kirk Cousins on the other side of the ball having an MVP like caliber season, the weapons are just too great in my opinion. And if you have an AO out there who has been serviceable in that role, but without Bland, without Carson, it's a tall order, and especially with Trayvon Diggs, who's played relatively well. I think that the order's a little bit too tall as far as secondary goes. I'm
going to go with the defensive line, and I'm going with this run defense specifically. You're going up against Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. They combined for more than 900 yards on the ground and 5 rushing touchdowns. That's not to mention what they can do as receivers out of the backfield. You're going to have to level up your run defense and also seal the edges, and that goes to linebackers as well, covering those two guys coming out of the backfield to prevent them from being receivers. I'm going with the defensive line with kind of a little bit of a plus to the linebacker. So let's say defensive front seven for me.
Atlanta has the best duo of running backs, except for Detroit that you've faced so far this season. Detroit's the only other team that has that type of weaponry with two backs. And the thing about it is it's just like Detroit. They complement each other. It's not just Montgomery and Gibbs. Montgomery's kind of the bulldozer, bell cow, over and over again, red zone back. Jahmyr Gibbs is that speedster with some elusiveness and some lateral ability. You've got two guys in Bijan Robinson who can do a little bit of everything. Bijan's a complete tailback. He can do it all. He can run heavy. He can run quick. He can run lateral. He can block. He can do all of it. That's why he was a top pick in the draft.
Correct.
But you look at the two-headed monster of Darnell Mooney and Drake London, and I think...
Okay, I'm not there yet.
Sorry.
Yeah. But then you've got Tyler Algier behind, and he's a bowling ball.
Yeah.
He's a guy who's going to run the football. So you look at that in terms of the weaponry that Atlanta has, And then you look at the wide receivers and you say, okay, you've got Mooney, you've got Drake London.
Yes.
Then you've also got Kyle Pitts.
Yes.
This is the closest offense in terms of Atlanta that Dallas has faced to Detroit so far. This is the closest thing. Kirk Cousins is a game manager to a point where he can just kind of dink it, dunk it, toss it around, but that's not all he can do either. It's kind of like Jared Goff.
Look at his last game. He averaged 9.5 yards per attempt last week.
4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 80% completion percent.
No, he is a...
That's
good.
That's arguably pretty good.
Yeah.
Seems good.
I'm comparing this as... This is Detroit Junior. It's not Detroit.
Yeah.
It's not the Lions offense, but they're very comparable in the way that they're built and the way that they're managed, and they're going to try and do the exact same thing Detroit did to you, which is run it, and then big bomb over the top to guys like Sam Laporta, Kyle Pitts, guys like Jameson Williams, Drake London. Yep. I mean, they've got so many different guys. Monroe St. Brown. You've got Mooney. I mean, all of it.
That is a scary comparison if you think about it. Like that's actually like scary accurate.
Yeah, but I said, it has to start with
spooked.
Yeah, shooketh before Halloween.
It's Halloween tomorrow.
Shooketh, spooky season. But yeah, I mean, that's why for me it has to be the defensive line and the defensive front seven, because if you can do your best to bottle up that rushing attack with Robinson and Algier, and that also goes to, like I said, the linebackers, keeping them in the backfield from being receivers, because the Falcons' third leading receiver is Bijan Robinson. So
I hate that.
Yeah, he can.
I don't like that.
Things, right. So if you are not able to stop that two-headed rushing attack / receiving attack out of the backfield, your cornerbacks are going to have a much longer day, because now they're going to start thinking, if I'm Trayvon Diggs, I would like to be purely thinking about coverage. But if my front seven isn't playing effectively, then now I got to start thinking, well, maybe if I see Bijan coming out on the edge, maybe I need to crash down. Well, guess what? As soon as I do that, over the top of my head to Drake London or whomever Kirk Cousins chooses on that particular play. So I don't think it works in the inverse. I don't think it's a situation where, if you stop the pass, then no. This Cowboys defense has shown time and again that they struggle stopping the run, and then that leads to them being unable to consistently stop the pass.
Yeah. Atlanta has scored 29.8 points per game, so nearly 30 points per game over the last 4 games. It's the 4th most in the NFL over that span. And they scored, of course, 31 points last week in the win against Tampa Bay. They've won 4 of their last 5 games in order to take the lead inside the NFC South. We've got more on the Atlanta defense. I want to take our first break because I want to leave enough time in the final segment for my guy, Patrik "No C" Walker, to hit some lab coat. So when we come back, we'll take a deeper dive into this. Which weapon from the Atlanta Falcons worries you the most going up against this Dallas defense? Plus, what's the Dallas percentage to make the playoffs now at 3-4? I've got a number for you when we come back right after this with more Talkin Cowboys.
If you're looking for fresh American roasted coffee that gives back, you need to head to your local grocery store and pick up a bag of Black Rifle coffee. That's right, America's coffee is now available in the coffee aisle of a grocery store near you. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-founded with a mission to give back to those brave men and women who have served our nation. Every bag, box, or can you purchase helps support that mission. Head to your local grocery store and roast yourself some Black Rifle coffee today.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code GetJackBlack.com/CowboysVIP. That's GetJackBlack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, this portion of the show is brought to you by Quaker Oats, the official oatmeal sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Quaker Oats, trusted since 1877. Appreciate you guys joining us as always. We had some great calls yesterday on Talking
fantastic.
Tuesday.
I love it when we get quite a few in.
Yeah, we were able to knock them out.
Spread the love. You know what I mean? New people calling and old people calling.
Yeah, I love it.
There was a lot of hopeism, hope kind of thrown out there, and that's one thing I've noticed about the Talking Cowboys viewership is there's still certainly the frustrated fan. And there's probably a lot of them right now because I think all of us are a little frustrated at times with this football team.
Me? No.
Yeah, what are you talking about? But a lot of times the callers specifically are very optimistic, and I enjoy that. I think it's great. It provides a new perspective. And I thought yesterday, right at the end, we had a very good call down the stretch that was all about optimism. I believe it was Gavin that had the optimism.
Yeah, he had me ready to run through a brick wall.
Thank goodness.
Gavin did.
But have you guys
now I'm just
seen?
like,
yeah, not the same today.
Not the same.
Not
today.
this morning.
Call in every day.
Gavin, go ahead, give us a call.
It reset when you went to sleep?
Yeah, I've slept since then. Cowboys at 3-4. Do you know the percentage off the top of your head of how many 3-4 teams have ever made the playoffs in the NFL?
Top of my head.
If you had a guess, what would it be?
3-4, I'd say 29%.
Okay, 29%. What would you say, Pat?
I'd go 35.
35, a little bit bigger.
35%.
3-4 teams that have made the playoffs. 19.2%.
NGB.
Not good, right?
Not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob. Not great.
That puts us in a pickle.
44 times in NFL history that a 3-4 team has made the playoffs. 44. So Dallas could be number 45. Could be a nice round number 45. Dallas has done it before, by the way. They were 3-4 back in 2018. Turned around, made the playoffs. They won 7 of their last 8 games in order to do so. A little bit of a tougher schedule this time around than it was in 2018.
Did a thing at the trade deadline.
They did a thing.
Okay.
There was a
big thing.
They went and got a guy named Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
That helped you kind of turn things around.
So might it take doing another big thing? I mean,
At what position? At what position?
What would? Yeah, that's a great point. What would you do it at?
Well, assuming Mike,
because we can't talk about players specifically, but we can.
Just a guy, just one guy, one position.
We can't talk guys.
No, I mean like.
Yeah, like one spot.
In theory, it would be a man.
In theory,
it would be a man.
It's like the guy on his shirt. That's what it was.
You know, man, just drop a guy right next to Osa.
Oh,
just drop a guy right next to Osa.
Big body defensive tackle.
Just drop a monster right next to Osa, and let's really get this cooking. And I mean,
grab Aaron Donald off the couch.
Why not? I mean, Monty Smith, he's shown progress over year one, most certainly. That is, not even arguable. He has shown progress. Is he where you would like him to be at this point as far as mauling guys consistently every single rep? He's not quite there yet. He's getting there, but not quite there yet. And if we're talking about potentially saving the season, trade for just an absolute monster. Put him in between Tank and Osa and Micah and in front of Kendricks and Overshown and go eat.
Yeah.
These numbers, by the way, these percentages, I just looked at it again. Since 1990, 20%.
Okay.
20% since 1990 have made it. Only one team out of 229 teams that have started 3-4 have won the Super Bowl, and only 21 of those teams have won their division.
Oof.
Yeah.
Sounds concerning.
You got some pretty good teams in this division.
There's some decent teams.
Yeah.
So
there's one.
You're going to play 4 games against 2 of the good teams in the division, Washington and Philly, and kind of go from there.
Who's your guy, though? Or your position?
What position group? It's tough. It really is.
Yeah. Because it's not just one position.
No, you could make a move anywhere and feel pretty good. I still would go get an impact wide receiver.
Yeah.
Even with Cooks coming back.
Even with Cooks coming back. Because my thing is Cooks is at the end of his contract at the end of this year. Outside of the final 8 games last year, I don't see anything from Brandon Cooks that would encourage me to possibly re-sign him and move him further into the Dallas, or bring him back to Dallas next year and beyond. As right this second, while he's the number 2 guy, I would do it. But if you had a guy and you could bring him in and it's an impact player on the opposite side of CeeDee Lamb and you could sign him for a long-term deal, even if it's not necessarily a huge contract, I would rather do that.
Man, I feel like Brandon Cooks can, no pun intended,
I love Brandon Cooks.
I think he can cook up when he comes back. Fully healthy.
I'd be okay with that.
Fully healthy, I think.
I just didn't see it before the injury, and I'm skeptical when he comes back that it's going to be better than it was before the injury.
Yeah, and I know he said in the locker room, just in some off-the-cuff conversations, that it wasn't something that lingered from training camp. But players say things.
It was around.
And there was some soreness in training camp that caused him to miss some practices.
Yeah.
And just I don't believe in coincidence, so the timing of it, right? So
Sure,
that leads me to this statement, which is Brandon Cooks coming back from IR, completely healthy on the back end of a season. We saw what he can do with the back end of last season, right? Mm-hmm. When they get him involved, that's going to be key.
Yeah.
Get him involved, get him the targets. You do that, I think he can keep you off of that trade for wide receiver conversation. But that's just my take.
I agree, and I think he's a good receiver. The one thing about this receiving room, I'm not making a trade based on Brandon Cooks or not making a trade based on Brandon Cooks. I'm making it because I haven't hit in any of these other guys. Jalen Tolbert's been such a flash in the pan. I wish he would be more consistent. If he could be more consistent, then great. But the film is telling me otherwise.
And you wish Devontae Turpin would bring in that catch.
Same thing. Yeah. Turpin, his hands,
run blocking too.
He has zero confidence in his hands. Run blocking's always been a problem across the board for the wide receivers.
I mean,
Jalen Brooks has been inconsistent. Yeah. There's nobody outside of CeeDee Lamb right now that I trust to throw the football to in a big-time scenario, and we showed that again this past week whenever on third down you go to Devontae Turpin, incomplete pass, best ball that Dak threw all night, right through his hands, incomplete. Another one was in the double coverage against Jalen Brooks. I don't know why we're throwing to Jalen Brooks and Devontae Turpin when the game is on the line to try and get a first down in the final waning moments. And the reason why is because you don't have another target.
Well, in that instance, I would rather it be Jalen Tolbert as the target because that's at least something I've seen from Jalen Tolbert over the course of these first 7 games. He's come up with some big throws when he's been targeted in big situations.
I'm at the point where if CeeDee Lamb is triple covered, still try and find a way to throw him the football. Because I don't trust anybody else on the offense. I don't trust anybody in the wide receiving room.
And as far as Tolbert goes, I think outside of his targets, I don't think he's doing a great job as far as run blocking. Like I really think that is a huge lacking.
Well, and if you go and look at Troy Aikman's comments last week when he was talking about the wide receivers and the lack of effort, that's not necessarily pointing fingers specifically at CeeDee Lamb. There are a couple instances. It's really pointing fingers at the other guys. Pointing fingers directly at Jalen Tolbert, who takes plays off from time to time. You've got Devontae Turpin that takes plays off and just doesn't have the confidence level. And then Jalen Brooks, who is just too inconsistent in what he's doing, period. So I would trade for a wide receiver. That's not the only position I would trade for. I would love a big-bodied defensive tackle. But
if you only have the
one option, I think I would rather have Brandon Cooks come back and he's not forced, kind of like the Michael Gallup situation where he's not forced to be your wide receiver 2. Is he good enough coming back from injury, fully healthy to be wide receiver 2? Absolutely. I think Brandon Cooks can help your offense. But I just don't think I want to put him in that peg, and that's exactly what he's going to be whenever he comes back regardless right this second without another wide receiver.
Especially considering he'll be a free agent next year, so he's going to want to prove some things, which he could work in the Cowboys' favor. Who you got? Not who you got, but what position you
got? Okay. I've changed my tune on this because it used to be wide receiver.
You were a wide receiver.
Wide receiver. I was a wide receiver guy before. At least for me right now, I think you need juice in the backfield. The fact that you don't have a running back that anybody's afraid of,
That 1.9 didn't do it for you?
1.9 did not do it for me. Like we saw the experiment.
I love that they tried it.
Yeah, at least they tried it. You can't. It's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. At least for me, you need juice in the backfield. You need some youth. You need some speed. Someone that's going to be an actual threat for you in the backfield. Someone that can actually help on screen passes that you're afraid of. To me, it's a running back. I would really, I would love to see what they do with some youth back there.
Yeah,
fair.
And there's a couple teams that could possibly throw some running backs on the trade
Don't
block.
you name names, Kyle?
I'm not going to name names, but
Don't you
they're
dare.
out there. There's a couple of them out there. I'm just saying.
Derek's listening. Don't you do it.
I'm not going to do it.
Are you going to hear ding?
All right. Which weapon on the Atlanta defense worries you the most going into this weekend?
I kind of tipped my hand on it when I said, when I talked about the defensive line and the defensive front, it's Bijan Robinson for me. For me, it's Bijan Robinson. He's a game wrecker if you allow him to be, and sometimes even if you don't allow him to be a game wrecker, he's going to wreck your game. This is a guy, one of the top overall picks in the NFL coming out of Texas, and he has done nothing except prove why he was one of the top overall picks coming out of Texas. So 546 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, showing it as a receiver as well, 244 receiving yards, averaging 7.9 yards per reception. Those are numbers that are better than a lot of wide receivers in the NFL. So you don't have to, you said it eloquently earlier, Kyle, he can do it all.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So not only because he can pass pro as well.
Yes, he can.
Yeah, absolutely. So he can pass pro, he can be a receiver, not just a receiver that, he's, press button in case of emergency with a dump off and maybe he gets you at the line of scrimmage. No, if you get the ball in his hands in space, it can easily be a first down conversion. Again, he's averaging almost 8 yards per catch. And not all of those are 8 yards of depth, right? Though a lot of yak yards for Bijan Robinson. So that's as a receiver. As a running back, he's powerful. Because a lot of people think because he's so shifty, because he's so quick, because he has that speed, that he won't just run right through you. But, you would be incorrect in that assessment because he will run right through you as well. So for me, it's Bijan Robinson. He can be an absolute terror for the Falcons and against the Cowboys, who, even if they had solid run defense, I would still say Bijan Robinson. But you don't have solid run defense. You have run defense that's been struggling week in, week out, and now it's going up against one of the best running backs in the league in Bijan. So I think this game will go as the Cowboys allow Bijan to go. If they can, and this is going to be a tall ask, if you can shut down or contain Bijan, the rest of the game doesn't become easy, but it becomes easier.
Yeah.
That's fair. But, okay, these are the Atlanta Falcons, man, and I think one of the things that they've had consistently throughout the years, and I'm going to cheat just
go for it.
A tiny bit.
Get after it.
It's the dual threat of Drake London and Darnell Mooney.
Okay.
If you look at the history of the Atlanta Falcons, they've had these tandems a lot. If you think of Roddy White and Julio Jones, they've had the wide receivers that are basically polar opposites of each other. One is a possession guy, tall. The other is short and speedy and quick. With Drake London and Darnell Mooney, I think that tandem, especially going up against some holes in the secondary. I think you're going to have
the way he said that.
Did you hear how high the
some holes in the secondary
went into a different octave?
Some issues on the back end of the. It's gonna be
All right, Mickey. Mickey Mouse, not Mickey's back.
No.
There's an episode of Family Guy where Stewie does that, and if you know, I'm not gonna go all into just YouTube it. Just Stewie, high pitched voice. Yeah. He keep with every question in his paragraph, he keeps going higher and higher. Is that what we're doing? Is that? Are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure?
It is the tandem of Drake London and Darnell Mooney for me. With a banged up backfield, I think that's going to be tough.
Yeah, 48 receptions, 525 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns for Drake London, tied for 4th in the NFL with 5 receiving touchdowns. Darnell Mooney has 4 touchdowns as well, so can't count those guys out.
Not at all.
I'm going to go with Patrik here specifically because Bijan Robinson and Patrik, you'll like this. It's October, right?
It is October.
Which means the Fall Classic's going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little baseball happening.
Yes, sir.
You hear about in baseball scouting a 5-tool player.
Oh, yeah.
5-tool players.
Accurate.
Bijan Robinson is a 5-tool player. And in baseball specifically, it is hit for average. Okay, 4.7 yards per carry. He's efficient as the number 3 receiver overall on this Atlanta Falcons team behind the 2 guys we just mentioned, and Mooney and Drake London. So there you go, hitting for average. Hitting for power. dude, he's just straight power. That's all he is. He's rocked up as an individual. You can use him as a bell cow back. You can use him as a don't start with me.
Said nothing.
He's a great, solid, powerful player.
Yes.
Whenever it comes to bell cow back, explosiveness, you can do it either way.
Yep.
Then you got speed. There's the explosiveness. He's got the speed to get to the edge. He's got the lateral ability. Arm strength, of course, you're not throwing the football at all, but we'll just equate it to overall strength and being able to push the pile. He's got that. And then fielding ability, I'll equate fielding ability to pass pro.
Yes.
In terms of a running back.
Yes.
I like it.
And so I would say pass pro is exceptional for Bijan Robinson. Is he top 5 in the league in that category? No, but I would give him a plus grade in doing so. And so across the board, Bijan Robinson, a 5-tool player. And players like that have given problems to Dallas this season. I'm going to name the 4 guys, top 4 guys in the NFL right now in terms of scrimmage yards. And stop me if you've heard of these guys so far this season already.
Okay.
Number 1, Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Seen him already. How did that go for you?
Not great.
Not great, Bob. Number 2, we haven't seen him yet, but you'll see him twice. Saquon Barkley, who's had a great year so far for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Sensational year for the Eagles.
You'll see him twice. There you go. Number 3 on that list, Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
You've seen him before.
He had a day.
How did that go?
He hurt you.
It didn't go well. 4 touchdowns for Alvin Kamara against you. Bijan Robinson's number 4 on that list, and he's not far off from Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara. That's the type of individual you're facing this week against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm worried. I'm worried about it. And they've got to change the pace back to Tyler Algier, who I think does a phenomenal job. He's kind of one of the more underrated backs in the NFL.
Right.
Coming out of BYU, just a guy who does it all right.
Not quite the Detroit tandem, but
no.
I think Bijan is taking over a lot of those responsibilities. Right?
Where the Detroit tandem is very, very subjective, and it could go anywhere from 55 to 45% between the two on a day-to-day basis, and it kind of fluctuates a couple points. Bijan, it's really 70-30 or 75-25. Like they rely on Bijan heavily because he's a complete player, because he's a 5-tool guy. When we come back here on Talkin Cowboys, we've got Patrik Walker with some lab coat. What do we got today?
We're going to use this lab coat as a segue to tomorrow, which tomorrow we'll talk about the Cowboys offense versus the Falcons defense. So there's a couple figures here that the Cowboys have no choice but to stay clear of in Atlanta, or it's going to be a long and awful day.
Right after this with more Talkin Cowboys.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here. With football season kicking off, I'm already gearing up to bring the smoker back to AT&T Stadium for some epic tailgates. But with that Texas heat, it's crucial to keep my beer hand cramping cold. That's where Yeti's insulated Colster can cooler comes in clutch. This year, you can even get them with the iconic star engraved on the side. Licensed Yeti Cowboys gear is now available at Stadium Pro Shops, concessions, and on Yeti.com. Check it out today. Yeti, official cooler and drinkware of the Dallas Cowboys.
And we're going to overtime.
Erica, how much have I spent on concessions?
For questions about their money, Dallas Cowboys fans can turn to Erica, the virtual financial assistant in the Bank of America mobile banking app. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/Erica by your side. Bank of America, official bank of the Dallas Cowboys. Erica responses may vary. Digital tools featured require downloading the mobile banking app and may only be available on select mobile devices. Erica is a mobile feature only available in the English language. Your chat may be recorded and monitored for quality assurance. Message and data rates and additional terms may apply. Bank of America, N.A., member FDIC.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Back here on Talkin Cowboys, this segment is brought to you by Invisalign, the official smile of the Dallas Cowboys, with Patrik Walker Josh Rodriguez, Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Youmans. It's time for some lab coat, sir.
Bring me in, Beamer.
Yes, science.
Yeah, science. All right. So, like I said before the break, we are going to use this as a segue to talking about the Cowboys offense versus the Falcons defense, which will be tomorrow, and you'll be tuned in.
Yes,
so
you'll
see what we're talking about there.
Sick.
All right. So, sick. Let's talk about the number one. Numero uno. The Dallas Cowboys have had an issue two issues actually this season. One issue being their inability to take the ball away. The other issue being the inability to not give the ball away. Okay, Dak Prescott has his past 3 games, 2 interceptions apiece. First player since Troy Aikman did that in 1992. Troy Aikman did go on to win the Super Bowl that year, so I don't know. But there's some historical.
Is that good, Bob?
That's great, Bob. Do that.
TGB.
You know what? Let's make sure and repeat history this time, Dak. What do you say about it? Let's go ahead and do it.
All right. So going back to the numero uno, when Dak throws no interceptions, when no interceptions are thrown in the game, he is 51-14. 51-14. That changes wildly once he throws an interception. Wow. Okay. When one interception is thrown, he's 17 for 16. So he becomes a 500 quarterback. Now, when we're talking QB records, all the science, all the variables matter. What is your defense doing? Again, defense is unable to take the ball away, to wash away the giveaway that you just had. Are you able to score more touchdowns than the interceptions? That's also one problem that Dak Prescott is having. He's not thrown for more touchdowns than interceptions in any of the games this year in which he has more than one interception. Right? So if he has 2 interceptions, the max that he's had for touchdowns has been 2. So it's just the math ain't mathing there in his favor, right? When he throws 2 or more interceptions in a career, as he has over the past 3 games and in 4 games this season, he's 7-16.
Oh, yo.
So there is this event horizon, all things
that
considered.
7 number is actually a little surprising that it's that high.
Well, that's fair. But then
I figured it would be lower and more losses.
2 things. When your defense is taking the ball away, as it has been in seasons prior to this one.
Yeah.
And when you're out throwing the interceptions with the touchdowns, as he has been doing in seasons prior to this one.
Yeah. You can have like a 4 touchdown game, 2 interceptions, and one of them's like a late thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you can't have a 2 touchdown game with a 2 interception game with 1 touchdown, or 2 interceptions with 2 touchdowns, and no takeaways from your defense.
Sure.
All those things work together. But the fact is the fact. When he throws 1 interception, just 1, that winning percentage drops quite a bit, and it has to be buoyed again by things that are not happening. Where's your takeaways? Where's your touchdowns? When he throws 2 or more, it really goes, it tailspins there. The point differential this season in the 4 games in which Dak Prescott has thrown at least 1 interception, and he's thrown 2 4 times. That's how he has 8. 72 points for the Cowboys, 138 points for the opposition. So again, it's not simply that the interception was thrown. It's that the touchdowns are not being thrown to counteract those. Okay, point differential is wild. But when he commits no turnovers whatsoever, that includes no lost fumbles, the Cowboys are back in good space, 43-10 as a career record for Dak Prescott. So I say that to say you need to do 3 things actually. Okay. We all know you need to score touchdowns. You know you need to score touchdowns, make it happen. But if your defense is going to continue to struggle with taking the ball away, that means you no longer have that eraser. You cannot throw interceptions.
No.
Not even 1. So now we're approaching perfection.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous air, because how often is it that even the elite quarterbacks in the league, how often is it that they have to play perfect football to win a game? And maybe you can get away with that for 1 game. Jared Goff had an 18 for 18. Maybe you can get away with an elite quarterback having a perfect game once. But if you need him to do that 17 times
every game,
you're in trouble.
It also doesn't help. Like, you don't want Dak to be throwing 38 times in a game. And that leads me to the running game. Like the fact that it is not non-existent. It means you have to lean on Dak throwing the ball 38 times a game, which is not what you want. You want him at 25 max.
The only way you would be okay with Dak Prescott throwing damn near 40 times a game is if the touchdowns were coming with that. right?
And they're not.
Because the more you throw, the more opportunity there is for a mistake.
You're talking about the Kellen Moore offense. At that point.
Yeah.
At that point in time.
If you're talking about
you're throwing 40 times,
you're throwing 40
chucking
times
it up
consistently, you got to know every time you put that ball in the air, that's an opportunity for something to go wrong. That's first and foremost. And then the only way that you can watch that 40 times, I would take I don't want this to happen consistently, but if he had to outthrow Kirk Cousins, for example, if after the game I looked at that stat line and it was Dak Prescott threw 41 times for 375, he had 2 interceptions, but he had 4 touchdowns.
I'd be down for that.
I'm taking that.
Yeah.
I'll take that. However, if he throws 41 times and it's 2 interceptions and it's 1 touchdown and it's 275 yards, that's probably a loss.
100%.
So it's all contextual, but until the Cowboys get their offense humming in the end zone, or until the defense starts humming and taking the ball away, Dak Prescott really kind of has to play perfect football.
Yeah, it's tough. I remember seeing, and I wish I remembered off the top of my head who
that
tweeted
includes
this.
Running.
Yes, who tweeted this out after the game? But it was the tweet read, "Dak Prescott's second interception broke this football team." And this was this past week against San Francisco.
It was the backbreaker for sure.
It was
in that game, at least.
In that game specifically, it absolutely was. And that's not all on Dak. It is on Dak specifically because he threw the interception, and that number's going to count to the quarterback. It was a bad pass. But a lot of it is kind of in that mindset, like you're talking about, of him pressing. Of him trying to do too much, of him not having the help of play action. We talked about it last week. They've run how many plays of play action? 20 on the entire season. They've run 20 snaps of play action.
Yikes.
And that is
you don't have the threat of
because you have
game.
zero running attack. Zero. And this is kind of what, and I'm going to go all the way back, and if I need to go get the receipts, I will go find the receipts.
Find them.
But in training camp, we talked about it, man.
Yep.
We talked about it, and I said, I'm worried about the running attack. I'm worried about these running backs. I'm worried about the effectiveness that they're going to have because not only does Dak Prescott need a rushing attack to throw the football effectively out of play action, he needs it to throw the football effectively, period. Just because of the threat that it gives. Teams are daring Dak Prescott to throw it into coverage, and they're going to unload the box.
They're going to
drop back, and they're going to let Dak try and pick them apart and try and be perfect to go along with what you're saying. So the film backs up all the numbers that you just gave, and it just continues to snowball as the season goes on because teams, they see the answers to the test before they even take it.
Yeah.
They're doing their studying, and they're like, oh, okay, like we'll just dare Dak to beat us.
And I don't think people understand how concerning it is for you to have your quarterback play perfect football every single week. Like it's hyperbole to say, well, that's the goal. Of course that's the goal. That's the goal for every quarterback of all 32 teams is to go in there and play perfect every single time. Right. But the reality is it's not going to happen often because those are other NFL players that you're going up against. They get paid too. Most of them got drafted too. They have contracts on the line. And then they play up to the Cowboys on top of all of that. So when we talk about Dak Prescott would have to play perfect football week in, week out until the defense gets it figured out and until the other thing gets figured out, that also goes to using his legs as well. Because with the pressure coming from his offensive line, he can't stand there and be a statue and take sacks. The Cowboys and Dak Prescott's record when he sacked 1 time or fewer, 41-11. When he sacked 1.5 times or greater, 35-34. Don't just stand back there and move around, but create the threat, even if it's just the illusion. But in order to create the illusion, you have to first create the threat, okay? So we talked about it yesterday for his escapability. If you're going to roll out left or right, which I highly advise, if you never cross the line of scrimmage, if I'm a defensive back or a linebacker, why would I care that you rolled out? I'm just going to stay in my coverage. I'm going to stay in my lanes. I'm going to stay with my keys and my assignments. Every once in a while, you got to break that plane and line of scrimmage, and you got to get those yards at least once or twice in a game so that the next time you roll out, which you probably will have to until you get consistent blocking up front, now they're thinking. Make them think. Linebacker comes off of his key, middle of the field is open for Jake. Defensive back comes off of his key, well, there you go for CeeDee Lamb right there. So you have to make them play. So when I say Dak Prescott right now, in this version of the Cowboys has to play perfect football, I am not exaggerating. He has to, but the problem is how likely is it that he or anyone can?
Yeah. You have to take positive yardage when you can.
Take what you can.
It will take what they're giving you. I mean, if the scramble results in a 2-yard gain, that's better than
2 yards.
It's better than throwing on 2nd and 10
or getting sacked for a loss of 5.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Or incompletion. Cleaning up a stat that I just mentioned: 20% of snaps is play action, not 20 snaps. I think I was going to
say,
no, it's 54 snaps total. It was 20% of snaps.
Still only 1/5 of the time.
Yeah, only 1 out of every 5 plays you're going to play action. Not great. I want to play devil's advocate, and this will be my final question of the day. But devil's advocate here, I can just hear you're talking about it's impossible to play a perfect quarterback.
Week in, week out?
Week in, week out. It's impossible to do so. Everyone, I can just see the comments, but he's getting paid $60 million a year. He's the highest paid NFL quarterback in history, highest paid player in NFL history. All of the people there, and I'm not saying I believe this because I think realistically you know what the quarterback position entails, and there's room for imperfection and you can't do it all yourself. But what do you say to people like that are saying, hey, the contract doesn't matter. He has to play perfect football.
Mendoza line. Okay. Think about it and in terms
Another
of
baseball
Mendoza
reference?
Line. Yeah. Think of it in terms of Mendoza line, right? The reason players like CeeDee Lamb get paid as they do, Justin Jefferson gets paid as he does, Joe Burrow and those guys, Josh Allen's and Dak Prescott's, is because they more often than not play so consistently above the Mendoza line that their value dictates that they get compensated as such versus Ben DiNucci and Matt Castle and whomever else, right?
Ben DiNucci catching strays.
I mean,
Ben DiNucci.
I'm just saying. But that being said, it's none of those players that I talked about. Does Josh Allen play perfect football every single day?
Absolutely not.
Not at all.
A ton of turnovers.
Right. He led the league in turnovers. I don't know if he still does, but over the past 3 seasons or so.
Curious.
But that wasn't on ESPN for a 24-hour cycle.
That's a whole different story, but you're right. So, Josh Allen, does he play perfect football?
No.
Has he ever had a perfect game? Never. Not ever. Okay.
No.
Aaron Rodgers.
But that's why
he's
Josh
had
Allen.
a perfect game. But even Aaron Rodgers, future first ballot Hall of Famer, has he always played perfect football?
No.
Even has it often? No. Okay. Troy Aikman.
When he plays the Cowboys.
Josh
Troy
Allen?
Aikman, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the history of the sport, one of the most decorated in the history of the sport. Did in his time with the Cowboys, was he perfect week in and week out?
No.
Even half of the time, was he perfect?
No.
It's Mendoza line. You pay those guys who are consistently in a certain air, but them being compensated as such doesn't suddenly magically make them perfect just because you paid them that amount. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are levels to this, and you pay for the levels. That's all I'm saying. Dak Prescott, he's an MVP candidate last year, All-Pro last year. He's shown you that he can be in this air in the regular season.
Yeah.
Postseason is still
jury's still out.
Brandon Aubrey is still at that yeah.
You can say the same for
jury.
Kirk Cousins has had a lot of big contracts.
Fully guaranteed. Has he ever? Kirk Cousins has never had a perfect game.
Exactly my point.
Josh Allen, by the way, I think he needs to be more so in the MVP conversation with what he's doing right now. He has 14 touchdowns and 1 interception. That's incredible.
Yeah, he's
that's
flipped
different.
his switch. He's flipped his switch.
That's different. But just a sidebar to what we were talking about. He led the NFL last year in the same kind of thing. Led the NFL last year in turnovers, just as Dak did 2 years ago. Turnaround. Dak Prescott was second in MVP voting last year, had a phenomenal campaign, was one of the best quarterbacks in football in 2023. And then now it's kind of a up and down.
And that's where, I won't even pretend to be naive in anything. I'm not naive in this situation. It's the timing and the optics.
Yeah.
Right? Because if this contract didn't get done quite yet, if it doesn't get done until next offseason, then they're not talking about, fans are not talking about, oh, well, he's the $60 million guy. He shouldn't be playing like this. The narrative would be different. It would be saying, well, he needs to play better if he wants $60 million.
Yeah.
Okay? But the fact that he got paid and then that times up with the poor play, it's a perfect storm of ungreat things, Bob. So that's kind of where it is. My thing is, because I've seen Dak Prescott cook up in the regular season time and time again, that's what earned him the 60. Now you need to work on justifying that this team and that you can make a postseason run.
Yeah.
But as it stands, the Cowboys are playing poor football, so right now you need to justify the ability to get in the postseason so that you can possibly make a run.
20%.
Yeah,
I think a simple answer is the market is the market. The quarterbacks are going to get paid.
Yeah, no matter what it is.
He'll be the 7th highest paid quarterback in 2 off.
Exactly that. So like you
Brock
you
Purdy's
pay for
about to get his now, so
you pay for what you need.
Josh Allen's going to get
100%. And the money is the money, and that's another man's bag. I'm not going to have that's none of my business. You know what I'm saying? Like he got the money that he deserved because of the contract that he played on before.
My business is the football on the field, and right now focusing on that.
It's not good.
Dak Prescott, and he knows it. He needs to play better football on the field. Period. Point blank, and let's go from there.
That does it for us here on Talking Cowboys. For Patrik Walker, phenomenal job on Lab Coat as always. Josh Rodriguez, Chris Beam in the back will be back tomorrow. Isaiah Stanback will be back in the building as well from his ventures on Good Morning Football. We'll preview the Dallas offense versus that Atlanta defense with a little QB vision in there as well. That does it for us. We'll see you tomorrow with more Talking Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!